Okay, hi everyone. My name's Emma Doolan and today I'm here with my colleague Emma Kerr. We are clinical psychologists at the University of Newcastle Counselling and Psychological Services. And today we wanted to share with you a short webinar where we go through some tips and suggestions about how to take care of yourself during the current COVID-19 situation.
Hi, and I'm joining you from my office in Callahan campus.
And I'm actually in my kitchen.
We are appropriately distanced.
Yes.
So we wanted to, really acknowledge that it's pretty normal to feel stressed, anxious, uncertain, maybe even angry, sad, have some strong emotions about what's going on at the moment. Lots of people that we're seeing in the counselling service might be worried about, some of them are worried about themselves getting sick or about friends and family getting sick. Others aren't really bothered about the health aspect of it and are more worried about getting through uni, or they might be in financial stress because they've lost some casual work. So lots of different aspects of this situation that can cause a lot of stress. And as well as that, we know that strong triggers for worry are situations which might be ambiguous, where it's open to different interpretations. The situation might be novel and new, where we don't have any experiences to fall back on. And the situation is unpredictable, where it's unclear how things will turn out. And we know that COVID-19 is most of those things for most of us. So it makes sense that this situation could really lead to a lot of worry for people.
And so what we thought would be helpful to start off with is kind of to understand some of the behaviours or things that we might do that can sometimes, increase or exacerbate the anxiety. And we tend to see this as a bit of a cycle. So, or this can occur as sort of more cyclical manner, where we start to feel anxious, and because we're feeling anxious, we want to do things to try and reduce that anxiety and reduce that uncertainty and that worry. So we might find ourselves engage in what we call anxiety behaviours. And these can be things like repeatedly checking news sites, for example. Yeah. And while we've thought that might reduce our anxiety in some way, we might actually be finding it's actually kind of increasing our anxiety and making us feel actually overwhelmed, especially at the moment. What do you think?
I think another really good example of this is talking about the stats and the latest kind of information on COVID-19, just going over and over and over that in conversations with friends. It's kind of sometimes a way of trying to manage your anxiety, but actually, or listening to news on the 24-hour news cycle, you feel like you're doing something helpful and being informed. But after a certain point, I really notice how much more anxious I feel after listening to kind of some of that stuff versus if I focus on some other stuff during the day. So that's kind of that first part of the cycle, isn't it? Where you start to feel anxious and then do these things to try and help, but actually sometimes it makes us feel more overwhelmed.
Yeah. And then I think what we can sometimes find ourselves doing is kind of just completely avoiding. And that can be in many forms. It can be sort of just, doing over the head, not wanting to get out of bed. It can be, not engaging in that usual routine that kind of feels like we're achieving something, or, doing our uni work, or kind of withdrawing from things that actually we enjoy doing and that give us that sense of sort of pleasure and joy. And so what we can find is that really can affect our mood. We might even start to feel a bit low, a bit depressed, and what that can do is actually increase or exacerbate the anxiety, and so we sort of get this cycle, this sort of anxious cycle.
Yeah, so we definitely just, really want to be aware of this cycle and know, to be able to identify that for ourselves. Oh, am I ending up in this cycle? And the strategies that we're going to talk about today are around strategies to really help you not fall into this cycle. So we're going to start by actually looking at recognizing what worry is and when worry is a problem. So worry is a type of thinking where we go over and over and over kind of certain thoughts. And everyone worries to some degree, and some thinking ahead can actually help us to plan or cope. But it's an example of worry, or a worry chain, can be like we've got up here. So you might start off with thinking, oh, I've got a bit of a headache today. Oh my gosh, what if I've got coronavirus? Maybe I passed it on to everyone at work yesterday. Oh my gosh, everyone will pass it on and die. And you start imagining an apocalypse and losing everyone that you know and love. and it kind of becomes this worst case scenario thinking.
Yeah, so it's kind of this real kind of spiral, doesn't it? Like we just find
Absolutely.
one thought leads to another and leads to another, and they get sort of more, I guess, catastrophized really,
Yeah.
and take on this life of their own.
Yeah, and I know I've definitely had thoughts like this recently, and I can definitely recognize those times when I'm like, wow, my thinking is like 6 links down the chain, and I'm like, how did I even get here?
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that.
Yeah. So there's no kind of right amount of worry in terms of whether a worry is normal or excessive. There's no one amount. It's really just about, is my thinking right now helping me to get what I want? Is it helping me to solve my problems? Or is my worry leaving me feeling demoralized, upset, anxious, getting in the way of me living the life I want to lead? Is it leading me to kind of be so overwhelmed that I have to stay in bed?
Yeah.
So you kind of, I guess, have a think about for yourself. Am I noticing this kind of worry chain? It may be about the health, but it may be about finances. You're getting this kind of worry. It may be about your uni work. You're getting kind of worry about this, and have a think about, where do I fall on that scale?
Yeah.
I
guess when we're thinking about worry, we can sort of, I guess, distinguish them into two groups. So current worries or hypothetical worries. And I guess when we refer to those current problems or worries, we're thinking about, worries that might be solvable right now. So, for example, here, it can be my children are off school and I need to help looking after them. Well, that's probably something you can problem solve and kind of work through that worry or solve that worry. But worries that sort of take on more of that what if, what if this future possibility happens, we tend to refer to them as hypothetical worries. So they're worries that actually, we can't really problem solve them at this time, and they may not even happen. So, what will I do if I lose my job and I end up destitute? Is an example of that. It's sort of this sort of future possibility.
Usually like the worst case scenario, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So we want to be able to kind of distinguish between these two different types of worries, because that can help us decide what to do with them. So, that brings us to the worry tree.
Yeah, I guess one way, and this can be a really useful tool, if you're, noticing yourself kind of worrying, kind of taking a step back and actually trying to determine, is this a current solvable worry or a sort of that future unsolvable hypothetical worry? And if it is something that is that sort of more current problem, then actually going through the steps of problem solving it and sort of managing that or dealing with that. But if it's something that is that more what if, really trying to, as hard as can be sometimes, letting go of the worry, not letting it sort of consume you and lead to even more anxiety, and maybe trying to, focus on something else that's important to you right now.
This worry tree is one of my favorite tools. It applies to, any kind of worry situation. And it's really about, focusing on what I can do right now, because letting go of the worry isn't easy. It's not going to magically kind of disappear, but we can kind of notice, okay, I've gone back to the worry. Can I bring my attention back to the task I'm doing right now? Focus, find something that's quite engaging for me, because if it's a hypothetical worry, if it's a what if, it's actually just, it's just going to impact on us and kind
the worry's not helping.
It's not going to help. It's going to maybe get in the way of our sleep or, distract us from other things. So really, really useful tool, that one. And I guess for being able to use the worry tree, we want to also be able to understand what are the things that are within my control right now and what are the things that I can't control. Because if we're focusing our energy and our effort and our thinking on things that are outside of our control, we're going to end up really overwhelmed and anxious, because there's nothing we can do about these things, but our mind is going over and over and over them. So in terms of COVID-19 and the current situation, we can't control how long it's going to last for. We're not able to really predict what's going to happen in the future. We can't control the actions of others in terms of, their social distancing or their panic buying. We are not able to control the amount of toilet paper at the store, unfortunately. We don't have control over the situation, the decisions that our government's making, or the economy. So things like that, you may not have a control over, what happens at work with your employer. again, of course, that's a stressor, but it's not something that you can control directly. There may be some things in the middle of these two where you can influence them, but actually we're just going to focus on the things that you know that you can control. This is the following the health recommendations, managing your worry. Obviously, you're not going to be able to stop thoughts from coming into your head. We can't do that. But when you notice them, we can respond to them in a way which doesn't make them worse. We can look at, I can control keeping up with some aspects of my usual routine as much as possible, staying focused on my goals and my own social distancing. So focusing your energy and efforts on those things that you can control is a hugely important part of getting through the situation, getting through a crisis. Yeah. Did you want to add anything there, Emma?
No, I think that, I think that leads on nicely from kind of just, understanding what's within our control, but also what's not, and then again, just trying to sort of let go and focus on what's important, what is within our control at this time.
Yeah.
The first strategy, finding balance. So, taking care of yourself and well-being requires this balance between things that give us, or activities that give us that sense of pleasure and happiness and joy that we enjoy doing, as well as tasks that give us that sense of achievement. So, our goals, or maybe it is completing uni work, or it is
could be baking some cupcakes.
Yeah, exactly. Sort of, it's really important that we do those things and have that sense of mastery. And also, it's really important that we sort of maintain our connections and closeness with others. And I think this is an important one at this time, because we are having to sort of social distance and get creative with how we stay connected with people. But this is a huge part of our well-being, and we sort of need all of these sort of things in balance, because that's going to help us cope when we're feeling a bit more anxious and a bit more worried and overwhelmed.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much more vulnerable to worry when we don't have anything to do, when our mind there's nothing else to focus on. So trying to stay busy with a sense of purpose, but trying to find balance between these three different areas, not just kind of 100% Netflix and gaming, or maybe some people are more likely to go to just, studying the entire time because they don't have that normal kind of change in environment, which might help you to have some downtime. So trying to be really aware of these three different areas and think about where you're falling and if you're leaning too far to one side.
Yeah, and I think when we're sort of, if you are having to, or if you're one of those people that has to sort of self-isolate, it is about kind of getting creative with activities and tasks that give us that sense of joy. I can't remember if it was you mentioning, Emma, that you can do virtual tours of the Louvre or something?
Yeah, absolutely. There's virtual tours. I think of some of the national parks in America and the Louvre. And in terms of like the social connection, it can be things like it's like a virtual book club or a virtual film club. You could use different ways of getting involved in the community in virtual ways. It's definitely about getting creative, and we'll come into a couple of practical examples of things later on. Oh, here we are. These ones. So in terms of staying active, so we know that exercise is really good for both our physical and mental health, but it's definitely more challenging to do if you have to isolate. So here are some different options for exercises that you can do at home from YouTube and different apps. So Yoga with Adriene is a great one. She's, I think, one of the most popular yoga YouTubers, people on YouTube. And she has heaps of free videos with yoga classes lasting from 5 minutes down to an hour. And she's just really quirky and has a really good vibe. So definitely check out Yoga with Adriene if you're into yoga. Oh, she also does a little bit of meditation too, which can be great. Then the next two are actual apps that you can use. So there's a Nike Training Club, and this has free workouts which you can do from home, as well as wellness and nutrition guidance from experts. And the second app, they're 7 to 7 minute workout apps. These are workouts that are based on scientific studies to get kind of the maximum benefit in the shortest amount of time. And you can link up with friends in the app and encourage each other or kind of get competitive. So it's a great way to stay connected and play some games. I think it costs 99 cents for, it might have a small cost for Apple, but it's free for Android, I think. I have to double check that one. Yeah, so there's obviously going to be heaps more, but these are a couple that you could check out to stay active.
I think it's important to take a break from the news. So I think we touched on this a little bit earlier on when we were talking about that anxiety cycle, and really, wanting to check the news and updates on what's going on. But I think sometimes it can be quite, consuming. And if we find we're really engaging in it a lot throughout the day and it really is causing us to sort of feel a little bit more overwhelmed and anxious, maybe recognizing that and limiting the use to say 30 minutes per day.
Yeah.
I think is really important. And if you find that this is actually hard, then maybe trying to experiment with apps that kind of restrict the amount of time on social media or news sites or things like that. Have you ever tried one, Em?
Yeah, I've tried this one, Off Time. This is actually the one which is 99 cents for Apple but free for Android, and it's great. It kind of allows you to choose which apps you want to limit. So you can block your social media but still use Maps or email on your phone. You're not having to block your whole phone off, and yeah, it just works really well. You can, even if you're starting with just 30 minutes, 60 minutes. We know that the social media is designed to be addictive, and so our brains are kind of constantly go back to checking in this kind of habitual way. And and Off Time can be, or any app that kind of limits access can just stop that kind of impulsive behavior.
Yeah.
So definitely something to have a try of. For any students who aren't from Australia or aren't familiar with the kind of trusted sources of information in Australia, University of Newcastle has a dedicated COVID-19 page with constant updates and alerts. And the other trusted sources of information are New South Wales Health and the Department of Health and the World Health Organization. So, it's definitely, we want to try and stick to trusted sources of information because there's just so much information out there, and it's not helpful to be kind of immersed in all these conflicting advice and conflicting information. So yes, these are some trusted sources you could go to.
So, a sixth strategy is trying some relaxation. And this can be, as simple as just pausing for a slow, calm breath. You might find that the more you're reading about COVID, or even just conversations that you find yourself in, can sort of lead you to feel a little bit more anxious or worried, and sort of just taking a step back and using a calm breath to bring you back to that present moment can be really, really helpful.
I know this one always seems like such a cliche, but it's actually so effective.
Yeah.
Just stopping for a moment and taking a breath. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Taking regular breaks is really important and seems probably really obvious, but I think sometimes, especially if we're at home a lot and we find, there's a change to our regular routine. Maybe it's, going to uni and going to work. We're not doing that as much anymore because of the current circumstances. So, sometimes people can just kind of keep going without sort of taking those breaks and looking after themselves. So whether it's, using an alarm or a timer, and just reminding yourself to have those breaks and that downtime.
Yeah.
Sorry, Emma,
yeah,
you want to say something?
I was going to say, Reach Out has this great collection of relaxing videos that if you're feeling really stressed out, you can just take a break with. They've got stuff like watching, you can watch just like cakes being decorated. I think they've got some cat videos. Like if you don't want to do the actual searching on YouTube for relaxing videos, they've got this great database of ways to relax. So definitely check that out if you just,
awesome.
need a break.
Yeah. And trying a free mindfulness app. So, it's another great way to sort of calm the mind and the worrying thoughts, especially for those more what if, hypothetical worries. Actually just engaging in some mindfulness and bringing you back to the now and the present moment. I have tried Smiling Mind myself. I find it really helpful.
Insight. I've actually used Insight Timer before, and Insight Timer is great because it's got also get meditations in different languages as well.
Oh, cool.
So it's a good one to check out. They've got some kind of body relaxation ones that you can try too. So yeah, definitely worth a look. Yeah, so tip number 7, chatting to a mate, staying connected. So some ideas are to really focus maybe on what you can do to help others, particularly if you're feeling really overwhelmed. This can be a good way to kind of change your perspective on things and think about, okay, who can I help right now? Who can I reach out to? You know, what could I do that would be useful? Definitely need to focus on getting creative with meetups. Have you got any stories that you've heard of, or any ideas about different ways people have met up?
Yeah, well, actually, I won myself on the weekend. We couldn't sort of get together because we were all sort of trying to stay home and do that social distancing. So we actually FaceTimed, and so there was 4 of us. We kind of ate dinner and chatted, and it worked really well. We chatted for about 2 hours. It was like we were there in person, so it was great.
Thank you. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, just had a.
No, sorry. I was saying that. Yeah. I had some FaceTime chats with some friends of mine, and it was great because it was kind of like they were there in person, and we went for 2 hours. So.
Awesome. That sounds cool. I've heard of friends who have done the Netflix party. And so catching up, or watching Netflix together. And there was also a festival that was on Instagram Live over the weekend where lots of musicians were playing, and you can kind of connect people that way. So yeah, definitely there's lots of creative ways that people are connecting. So check them out and get involved.
Yeah.
When you do meet up with friends, I know it's hard to do, but try not to focus completely on talking about COVID-19, particularly the news and the stats and stuff like that, if you're feeling really overwhelmed. So, you know, definitely check in how you're coping, how you're getting through, but not necessarily talking about the number of deaths or the number of cases and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then another example is maybe you could ask, you know, what are you grateful for at the moment? What's going well at the moment? And again, no, it seems like such a cliche, but it really actually is effective at helping to change how you're feeling.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
I was at the shops the other day, and I was just so grateful that I found some potatoes. It was like literally the best thing. So yeah, it's just kind of a way of shifting the conversation, and then it's okay. And again, something you could do to help others is to move the conversation that way instead of focusing on all the anxiety provoking parts of what's happening at the moment.
For sure.
Yeah, I wanted to just chat about some options available if you're in financial stress due to losing work. So there's been, as things are changing really constantly, but recently there were some changes to Centrelink where they've waived the waiting periods for some payments, and casual workers who have lost work can apply for the job seeker payment, and there's some additional money going to other payments. So definitely just check out Centrelink and see what the situation is. Now I know they're doing a lot of their stuff via MyGov rather than face-to-face. So check out that. If you're living on campus, you can talk to Student Living about having a payment plan made up. If you aren't living on campus or you have tried that, you can also talk to our wellbeing advisor at counselling, and we can help talk more about your situation specifically and help you to find some options. And also Noosa has things like Free Food Fridays where you can fill a grocery bag full of food from Oz Harvest, and $20 fruit and veggie boxes. I'm not sure how long they'll be still doing this for, but it's all on, the information's all on the Noosa website. They also at the bottom of their website have a food map. That's on the section of Free Food Fridays. They have a section where there's this link to a food map where you can see a database of all the places you can obtain free food or low-cost food and groceries. So yeah, something to check out if financial stress is relevant for you.
And I guess before we finish up, we just wanted to remind you that we're still here to help. If you do want to chat to someone, if you just feel like you need that support, that is absolutely fine. The Counselling and Psychological Services has wellbeing officers and counsellors that you can talk to, so you can phone them or email them if you would like to make an appointment.
Yep, we are still here.
Yeah, and we also have an online counselling service. So Emma and I are part of that team. And that is, you can actually speak to one of us via Zoom, via Skype, via chat, whatever you're comfortable with. And if you'd like to do that, you can email online counselling at Newcastle. There is also online drop-in, a service that we provide. There's no need to make an appointment. You can see the times there on the screen, and that's just kind of a chat service if you just want to check in with someone for some support or some resources.
Yeah, that one's over Skype. So you just log on and add UON online counsellor to your Skype contacts, and it's via text chat. So yes, you just need to log on at the time, add us to your contacts, and one of us will be there and be able to have a chat about whatever you want.
Yep. And then there's the UON after hours support line. So they're, like they say, after hours. So I think, correct me if I'm wrong, and between 5 and
5 minutes. Well, they're open anytime that the uni counselling service is closed. So from 5 p.m. until 9 a.m. Monday to Friday, and 24 hours on Saturdays, Sundays, and public holidays. Yeah, and there's the mobile number there for SMS.
Yes, so you can call or text.
Yeah, so definitely lots of options available for support if you're just feeling like I just need to talk to someone and feeling overwhelmed. You know, we're all available still. And yeah, we are all working together. The uni staff are all working together to support you, and we will get through this. This will pass, and things will go back to normal. Or maybe a different form of normal, but this will pass.
Yeah.
So yeah, thanks very much for listening, and don't hesitate to get in contact if you need any more support.